Council will come to order. All please rise to salute the flag, which is there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll. Oh my goodness gracious. We ready?
Ready.
Here we go.
Council Anderson. Council Kamel. Here. Council Condon. Here. Council Crowe. Here. Council Matheson. Here. Council Murphy. Here. Council O'Malley. Here. Council Sika. Here. Council Spatafora. Here. Council Winslow. Here. Council President Di Maria.
Here. Thank you. Under the provisions of the open meeting law, and for those of you in attendance, please be informed that Malden Access TV is recording this evening's meeting, and one of our Malden residents, John Mayara, will also be recording, so please be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. First order of business. Hold on one second. I have a light on the floor. Councilor Sika.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to suspend docket rules for the purpose of introducing Malden Cyclones national champions, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Thank you, and that was seconded by Councilor Murphy.
Thank you. So this, 2 weeks ago now, ladies, you've been home for about 2 weeks. Malden Cyclones Junior Varsity Level 3 Small had the opportunity to go to Disney World to compete in the national championship for the Pup Warner, and they came in first place out of 4 teams. So we just left the mayor's office where they were all awarded the key to the city.
Ooh.
And Gary promised them the last practice that they could have a parade. So if anybody was just walking down Pleasant Street with the police cruisers, they got a parade down Pleasant Street. We just had a pizza party and they got some citations from the mayor. So we want to present the girls from the council citations from us. I'm going to read it. It says, "Be it hereby known to all that the Malden City Council hereby offers its sincerest congratulations and best wishes to all your names in recognition for coming in first place and being crowned national champions at the Malden Pup Warner National Cheer and Dance Championships in Disney World. We are proud of all your accomplishments and wish you continued success." And it's signed by all 11 of us.
Councilor Sika, would you like to take a picture with it?
I would love to take a picture, and I actually think they were going to do a cheer for us, if you don't mind.
Oh my goodness! All right.
No stunting, just cheers.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you want to do first? Why don't they do the cheer first?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Where's the camera?
Do we want to get down there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe we should. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to step down.
Do this?
I think Ryan, I think it's Ryan, I'm not sure.
evening.
It's cool.
Thank you, girls. That was tremendous. You should really be so proud of yourselves. Many years ago, Jen and myself coached, and Melanie, and in 1996, we brought a first place. So I think this is since 1996, so great job. Yay. Okay, next order of business, please.
Scott Mullen, Director of Expansion, Northeastern from Lime Bikes, will appear before the City Council.
Welcome, Scott. Lime bikes. You should have worn green tonight,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to bring one in, but you can't find them. They're so popular. Everyone's on their way home right now. So I'd like to thank the council for having me for this opportunity to come in
Yeah.
and
You know what? Let's
Yeah,
give it a
sure.
minute so the girls can go home and do their homework. Thank you.
over here. Okay.
I was a coach in '96, but no, I wasn't a flyer. When I was a cheerleader, no, I wasn't. I know. Okay, we're ready. Thank you for
All
your
right.
patience.
Thank you, and thank the council for having me in tonight to talk about Lime Bikes, which that was the name of our company when we first approached the city of Malden last fall. You were our first pilot in Metro Boston, and we took the data from our 200 bikes that ran for about 7 weeks, and we brought that to MAPC in support of this regional network, which Malden really was a spearhead of, led the way in Metro Boston in terms of dockless mobility. So thank you again for having me. We are still operating right now. We relaunched in April, and we've had nearly 80,000 trips just in Malden. If you think about that, on bicycles, 80,000 trips, close to 70,000 miles. Our trips tend to be less than a mile. They're quick, punchy connections to transit. You'll see down here at the Orange Line station. You'll see them going up and down the beautiful Northern Strand path. Great bike infrastructure here, and great bike culture. And this is really about offering more options for people. And Lime Bike has been very well embraced. I will say that we had some pretty optimistic projections. This network that you are a part of, that you have led, includes 15 municipalities, all that ring Boston, where the blue bikes are, the dock-based system. We're sort of filling that gap for everybody in the on the outer ring. And you're the only one who hit your projections. I thought you'd have about 77,000 trips in this time, and you actually are at 80,000. So good on you, and thank you. This is not a cheap thing. And I will thank you one more time for hosting us. Actually, right there at 730 Eastern Ave is where we have our regional distribution warehouse for New England. Malden embraced us last fall, and we've been very excited to embrace you right back. So thank you. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
We do have some lights on the floor. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mullen, for being here to talk with us about these Lime bikes. They're obviously very popular. People seem to enjoy them. It does fill a gap that's needed and so forth. But they are also troublesome in where they are left. And, you know, if there is an area that needs to be worked upon, it's how you go about recovering these Lime bikes. What we see too often are bikes that are left unattended at intersections and bus stops, in the middle of the sidewalks, and that takes away from all the very positiveness of the Lime bikes. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about how you go about the recovery of the bikes, and if you've found that to be am I the only one that's saying that, or are you hearing that from anyone else?
So it's a great point, dockless mobility, right? Like I mentioned the blue bike system before. That's a dock-based system. You have to pick it up at the dock, bring it back to a dock. Dockless is much more flexible in that it can serve a much greater geographic area. I was GM of it was called Hubway at the time, the Blue Bike Network now, and my deputy GM is actually the operations manager here in Malden for the region. So we got the band back together, and we jumped into dockless, and we're sort of changing things again. We have heard that. When it happens, it's not good. It doesn't happen that often, though, and study after study is coming out, and the most recent one was out of San Jose State University about dockless parking compliance, and it's something above 90% is in compliance. 6 or 7% is maybe a couple of feet off, and then there's those egregious instances, which I think you're referring to. There's a few ways that we deal with those. Obviously, educating the member. Each bike is unique, has a unique code on it, so we get that number. We know who the last user was. We can do some outreach and education. And if we see patterns of bad behavior, we can restrict access to our vehicles. You know, this is something that is a new model, and again, Malden embraced it at the very beginning. What we found is we don't really have operational issues. Things do happen, and they're painful because they're visible. And they're visible in a context where it might not be something that people understand yet. So as time passes, the culture sort of shifts to be like, oh, that's a shared bike. It's not an abandoned bike. Somebody left it there, took the train, somebody's going to come off the bus and then take it somewhere else. So it's this more free-floating model. But what we found is when we get those reports, we do have a robust operations team, as I said, that's mentioned, that is based at 730 Eastern Ave. We have what we call foot patrol, and during the peak hours, people are downtown making sure things are orderly. We don't want to wait for a report to come in. We want to nip something in the bud that may happen. So all sorts of ways we educate our users. I should have started with, you open these with your smartphone. You download our app, you scan it, the bike will unlock, you ride it where you're going, you park it responsibly, you lock it down.
Can you describe to us what you call compliance when you refer to where people are finished with their bike?
Primarily not blocking ADA access, right? So we need minimum right-of-way, especially in the sidewalk. You know, some cities have designated parking spaces for us, cordoned off areas, that sort of stuff. But it's about ADA access. We don't want to be in the way.
So if you're describing you've got 90%, I think that's the term that you use, 90% compliance of those, I think because someone is not seeing what's going on there. I think the bikes are great. I think all that's good, but if you're only seeing 10% of non-compliance where people are leaving them, then someone needs to be looking more closely, because I think that you're seeing much more of that. I see them, you know, all throughout my ward where people seem to have left, taken the bike and brought it home and have just left it in the middle of the sidewalk. I know that's not what you want, that's not what we want, and I'm seeing that as an issue. If you're not seeing it as an issue, I would just ask you to look in that direction, because I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I think there's so many ways that people can report issues that do happen, and our team runs down every one of them. And a lot of times we find that it's actually parked in compliance, it's just perceived to be not. And I'm not saying that that's what happened in your case, but this is new, and a lot of times it's perceived as an abandoned bike, not necessarily blocking anybody's way. And people we'll run down every report that comes in. We are integrated with the C-Click Fix system here in Malden, and so we're end users on that account. We don't need to wait for someone to call us from the city. We see them when the tickets come in, and we dispatch right away to go deal with them.
Perhaps the problem is that people aren't calling in to complain about them, but I think that it's evident to me that they're left in places that you wouldn't want them. They're left too many times in the middle of the sidewalk, and so.
Yeah. Well, I'll get you my card before we leave. You'll have my cell phone, and we'll stay in contact about this, because we certainly want to make sure.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor O'Malley.
I just wanted to restate a few of the numbers that you said. I mean, 80,000 trips. I mean, we have, 60,000 residents, maybe a little bit more than 60,000 residents. That's quite substantial.
Yeah.
I know that
and it pays for the warehouse, almost.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, the fact that that Lime, I think that the same way the city of Malden entered into a friendly relationship with the Encore Casino when it was coming up in Everett in order to benefit from a good community relationship in terms of getting Malden priority into employment. I think that our good early relationship with Lime Bike was able to get us their regional warehouse here in Malden. That's providing real jobs in our community. That's providing a real tax base. You know, these bikes have a value. That warehouse has a value. You know, we brought a technology company, basically, a mobility technology company to Malden. These are the type of things that when we talk about how are we going to revitalize Malden, how are we going to get commercial businesses to move into Malden, I think Lime Bike is a huge success, not only of the city, but as us as a community in general. You also have e-bikes. Can you tell us a little bit about the e-bikes? Because I think they're kind of new. I saw them originally in Seattle.
Right. Yeah, the e-bikes, don't think they're like a motorcycle with a throttle and all that. It's a little motor that's inside the rear hub. And when you pedal, it gives you a little bit of extra boost, right? And so what this allows is it helps someone, for example, maybe in a suit that doesn't want to ride because they may get sweaty on their way to the train or on their way to the office. Gives them a way to sort of cross greater distances without worrying about soiling their suit, right? Or maybe they live near a hill and they don't want to get up and over that hill. They don't think they can do it. The e-bike helps them do that. Maybe someone's recovering from injury, right? Or somebody wants to go for a ride with an elder relative and it's a little kid, and this helps sort of normalize things on the Northern Strand Trail. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of different ways. And we've integrated those into our fleet. This was part of the original plan through the RFP to have roughly 50% of our vehicles be e-vehicles, because what we're finding is they're being ridden many times more than the pedal bikes. I'm not saying people are lazy, and this is writ large across all our 150 markets that we have across the country and the world, is that e-bikes are very popular. And again, not every trip needs to be for exercise, and sweating shouldn't necessarily have to come with cycling, right? It just needs to be a convenient trip that maybe offsets a car trip, and I think we could all use a little less congestion on our roads. You know, those trips, as I said, were about 0.8 miles on average.
Yeah, one of the benefits that I've seen from e-bikes is, you know, as you're biking through, Malden also, like Seattle, is a hilly community. You know, the residents in Ward 3 know it's a hilly community, residents in Ward 5, 6, 8. You know, if you're going up to Granada Highlands, taking an e-bike up that hill is a completely different situation than if you were to bike a real bike up that hill. So I think the e-bikes, if you haven't tried them, please do. They're fun, and they will get you across the city in a very short clip. You know, one of the things to Councillor Anderson's statement about, you know, where bikes are left, I know early on when we were kind of talking about how to do this, because it's like a 15 community, 16 community wide program, how to kind of rebalance with the least amount of effort on Lime Bike's part. Have we thought about the gamification or our bounty system where the users can, if they move it from one problem area to a designated area, they get some type of credit?
Exactly. So the bicycles, we're monitoring these things constantly. There's GPS on them. They're rolling computers, essentially. So the data that we collect from these is actually used for planning purposes. There's a dashboard that is available to the city. But if a bike sits for 24 hours, for example, we're watching it. Right? And maybe it's rain, maybe that's why someone took it home but didn't bring it back out the next day. 36 hours is when we sort of trigger, okay, now it's a bonus bike. And this is an app-based thing. The computers are doing all the thinking for us. We make that bike either discounted or completely free to take it for a trip. Ride it 5 minutes in any direction, and that's a free bike. And you'll see it on your app designated as a little money bag instead of a lime slice. And so this is a way that, you know, we think about the heavy operational lift of having vans and rebalancing people to pick up bikes from the neighborhoods and bring them back where we stage them close to transit, downtown and such. We want to mitigate that. You know, a bike trip is a carbon-free trip, right? We don't want to add carbon on the back end by the vans. So we sort of gamify it, the term that Councillor O'Malley used, to help keep the bikes flowing, but without that extra carbon lift of our men and women on our team. And I should note that at our peak, this past summer, we had 26 full-time employees, and they're working out of 730 Eastern Ave, so that matters. Yeah.
So again, Malden, when it comes to this, was on the cutting edge, and I just want to thank you, Scott, and Lime Bike for being here for us, bringing jobs and a new company to our community, and for helping us improve the system over time. Thank you.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. Councillor Winslow.
Yes, Scott, thanks for coming out, and yeah, great to know that this first full year has been very successful for Malden. I mean, I understand that 80,000 Malden is the highest community out of the 15, so that's a big success. And I mean, one of the things I have to say is that This is all being done at really no cost to the city. You know, the blue bikes in Boston that have docks, there's a substantial amount of money that goes into those. Some of it is through sponsorships, but potentially those cities and towns are on the hook. This is, you know, Lime Bikes has come to the city and said, we will do this, and we're not expecting the city to pay us for that. I think the other great thing that I observed is that the blue bikes, there's often a big membership fee, up to $75 a year, just to take out a bike. Lime Bikes, it's very inexpensive. Often your first trip is free. It's very low barrier to entry, and especially in a community like Malden, where a lot of low and moderate income folks are, you really see a great new range of people out there cycling, which is great, especially like the young people. You see a lot of them around the high school and that type of thing. So I really give credit in that. And I also appreciate just everybody in the community. I mean, it is something new, it is something different, and I appreciate Councilor Anderson's comments. I think some of it is trying to understand what is compliance. Maybe that's something ultimately we might have to work on to come to understanding. And I know that, you know, what that can work out as, so that, you know, Lime Bike knows what we expect and that type of thing. That's something we could work on a bit better. So, but I think it is ideas like bounties. I mean, it is interesting. The power of the social media, this is really a user group that we can work with and work with the company. And I mean, I think it's exciting. I mean, we have in our community so many people who talk about how transportation is hard and traffic is hard, or if you live in certain areas of Malden, it's hard to even get a bus at certain times of the day. Lime Bike is very flexible, and that is a great service to the community. And I think it is still in its infancy, so we don't want to, you know, kill the baby in the cradle here. I think we get to have some patience and work to adapt, and I think we've seen that. I know Lime has done some things of parking the bikes a little differently so they don't blow over quite as easily. So I think it's the continuum, and that's why I'm glad you're here to listen to the concerns of the council, and we'll continue to work and improve to make this better, and just excited and looking. Anything, my one question is, what about, can we expect for 2019? Anything we might expect? So
That's a great question. First, let me address, when we saw, and our team saw, the high school football team, like 5 or 6 of them going to practice on our Lime Bikes, we're like, that's it. This is exactly what we want, and enabling people to get around in a fun way that's green and active. So 2019, I mean, we're a mobility company, right? We've got bicycles, we have electric assist pedal bikes, we have electric scooters, and we're beta testing a car share service out of Seattle. Any trip that's 4 miles or less, that's 50% of the trips that happen in this country. We have a vehicle for that, right? We want to enable car-light lifestyles. 2-car families can go down to 1. 1-car families maybe get rid of it altogether, right? And especially when you live in a place like Malden with beautiful access to transit and you have a growing bicycle network, growing bike infrastructure. This really matters, and it matters maybe from a public health standpoint. Maybe you're doing it for exercise. Maybe it's for air quality, climate change. This hits all of those boxes, so we can customize a flexible option. In 2019, we finished 2018 now, we just announced 25 million trips. And Malden's 80,000 are a big part of that. And I will say, the Malden number represents 1/4 of the trips in this regional network. That's not small. That's not small. We want it to be bigger. But you guys are way out ahead of this already. So again, thanks again for the leadership.
All set, Councilor Winslow.
yeah,
Thank you. Councilor Murphy?
Thank you, Madam President, and welcome, Mr. Mullen. First time I've met you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I have a number of questions, and they're kind of all over the map from just listening to some of the conversation that's taken place. The first item that I wrote down, actually, Councilor Winslow just addressed it a little bit. It kind of like trash day. When you get a windy trash day, the streets are just littered with trash, things blowing out of the recycling bin, et cetera. And we do have a number of windy days in this area. And I have noticed multiple bicycles knocked over on windy days, you know, all over the sidewalks, kind of to Councilor Anderson's point of view. So I just heard you say you're parking them differently. Could you talk a little bit about, you know, how you're addressing the wind component of the Northeast, and also, you know, how quickly do your folks get out to reset these bikes?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I'm from here. Our company's based out of San Francisco. I just live in Arlington, just down the Parkway. Our ops manager's from Dorchester. And he came up with, what we did from last year is we noticed that we iterate constantly. The kickstands weren't doing a great job on those really windy days, so we upgraded the kickstands for this year. And another innovation for the team, we like to have them staged. When we put them out, there's two ways that bikes get parked. It's our team puts out a group of them, and they all sort of sit forward, and they lean a little bit to the left, and they look nice as our storefront, right? Another way is when people park them onesie, twosie, because that's where their trip ended. But when they are staged in a hot spot, and we're watching the weather all the time, whether it's for, is there going to be snow coming, or is it a windy day like it was this morning? And I picked up 3 bikes on Mass Ave in Arlington that I went by on my way to the coffee shop because the wind had gotten those. What you need to do is sort of stage them tail to nose is a different way, so they sort of create these almost like buttressing structures. When we know the heavy wind is coming, we put them like that, and we found actually it's working quite well for the bikes that we stage. And as we continue to iterate, we're going to look at other ways. Is it a dual kickstand? Is it lower center of gravity? What is it? This is something we've designed these bikes ourselves, and we continue to iterate with every new production run.
Okay, thank you. When we talk about folks not in compliance, do you have, and you've talked about different levels of education and then actually restricting use.
Yeah.
Do you have any statistics, or could you get us some statistics on how many actual users you've restricted within the city limits?
We haven't had to do that many, and here's, the thing is, these are painful when they happen, and we went and we had a meeting with Kevin Duffy, sort of like, we got to get this parking thing under control, and we've had a lot of complaints recently, and the number ended up being in the single digits, right? So again, the perception that this is an overwhelming problem is probably not the case. It is more of a very painful problem, and the environment that these bikes are operating in, parked in, being ridden in, is built for cars. It's not built for bikes, so they seem out of place if they're not maybe at a bike rack off around the side of the building. So again, this is sort of that cultural perception. I can say that the numbers I don't have off the top of my head, but they're very, very low in terms of the reports coming in, whether it's through SeeClickFix, whether it's through the app, whether it's someone calling in or emailing in. They just tend to be very, very painful, high profile, repeated often on social media, the same ones.
I do agree with you. I see them on SeeClickFix, and I see them on social media also. But as Councilor Anderson said, we all live in our woods, and we walk our woods, and we drive our woods. And maybe what we're seeing is not getting to you because, I believe that it's probably a higher percentage than is being reported to you that is causing the stress of a mother in a baby carriage not being able to get down the sidewalk, et cetera. So it is very visible to me as a counselor also. So I think that maybe you guys are walking the streets as opposed to just waiting to receive a complaint or a comment.
We're out there every day, trust me.
Okay.
If we see them, we move them. Yeah.
Because I do don't want to take away from this, because I do think it's been a great, not just the experiment was great, and it's rolled out into something that I think is very valuable resource to many of our constituents. So I think working together, we can certainly try to mitigate some of these issues. Question, you had said you had 26 full-time employees at the peak last year.
Yeah.
You were always interested in, when a new company comes in, job opportunities for our residents. Are any of the 26 employees Malden residents?
Quite a few are. There's also a lot from Revere, a couple from Chelsea, Everett, as you can imagine. But yeah, they're local. I can get you that number. I don't have it off the top of my head.
It's always nice for us to know that, Malden folks are getting jobs in Malden businesses.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And this is just a quick question. What is the age you have to be to ride a Lime bike? 18,
unless you're a guardian or parent allows, and then you could be 16.
Okay. And last but not least, is one of the counselors, I'm not sure, a number of us were here, some of us might not have been, but when the bike path first came on, we did craft an ordinance for use of the bike path. And one of the conditions of the ordinance is that it always has to be under manual power. There can't be any electronic or motorized vehicles used on the bike path. So I'm just curious how this e-bike fits into our ordinances. So I think that that's something that we might need to understand a little bit more
Yeah.
about this bike, and also look at what our ordinances say, because we definitely, when the bike path came in, did not want to see electric scooters, electric bikes, any type of moped, or anything like that. So the
Yeah.
ordinance is specifically written, I believe it says pedal power or something to that effect. I don't know, Council Matheson, if you remember. But there definitely is a restriction for any type of electronic device or motorized device on the bike path.
Yeah, I'd love to see it, and there are different, there's like a 3-tier classification of electric bicycles, and we are that sort of pedal, it's called a pedelec, pedal assist.
Okay.
You always have to be pushing it, there's no throttle, there's no nothing, you have to be pedaling it.
Okay.
It's just a slight little boost, but yeah, if
It's something we probably just need to, kind of.
yeah, I'd love to see that ordinance for
Get
sure.
together, so, thank you. That
All
was the end,
set.
that was the end of my questions, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair. Excellent questions. Thank you so much for coming here today. Thank you for being Malden business. I appreciate that. I saw these pedal assist engines on a segment of 60 Minutes. In fact, they had someone in the Tour de France that fell off his bike, and the bike kept going because it had one of these little invisible motors that were assisting with the pedaling.
Cheating in cycling? No,
Yeah,
come
I
on.
know, doesn't happen, unheard of. So I had a couple questions, no hardballs for you. How many bikes do you generally deploy in the city of Malden? I'm sorry if you answered that, I don't think I picked up
Oh,
on
no, I
it.
didn't. We have a cap of 300, that's our agreement with the city, 300 bicycles.
So this agreement with the city, who negotiated that with you? Was it the mayor?
This actually, the city has an agreement with MAPC. MAPC put out an RFP for a regional network, and it's important to remember, back in the summer of 2017, there were a lot of bike companies that were doing what we're doing. There was some coming over from Asia, there was a couple of small ones competing in the West Coast and Southwest, and it was sort of the Wild West, right? And we approached MAPC and said, look, this is going to be driven, the perception of this new technology and new model of bike share is going to be driven by the lowest common denominator. This can't be a free-for-all. MAPC, as you know, is a robust regional coordinating body that tries to get cities who have their own unique goals and needs and constraints to sort of think regionally. So they put this RFP together to say, okay, we will do all the heavy lifting of vetting these companies. Are they financially stable? Are their bikes safe? All of these different things so that the region would get the best possible system.
So who are the signatories to the agreement? Yourself and MAPC or the city of Malden?
So we've signed an agreement with MAPC to fulfill this contract. MAPC has a regional MOU with all of the participating communities.
Okay.
And so what we have, the specifics around bike number, for example, that falls under just a statement of work, for example. And it talks about, it talked about our kickstands, for example, was written into the statement of work. You have to replace all your kickstands before you can come back in the spring, that sort of stuff. So, but that's between us and Malden.
All right. I'm just going to ask the city clerk to obtain those contracts because all city contracts by state law have to be in the city clerk's office as the record keeper. Do you take the bikes in at a certain month or time of year? Is it after first snowfall? How does that work?
Yeah, we are reducing our fleet now just because seasonality, you know, people ride in the winter, they just don't ride as much. So we don't have the full 300 out right now. I think we're probably half that at this point. Okay. And we have a snow plan. We're monitoring the 10-day forecast. We're thinking if something's going to happen, we will get the bikes out of the right of way so that plowing can happen. But we don't want them to be too far, right? Because once it's, you know, we're all New Englanders, right? So we basically, the streets are clear, the sun is shining again, people will still ride. It's the precipitation when people won't, but when it's sunny and cold, they still will. So we'll remain open for the winter, just at a reduced fleet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your business on an annual basis, is it profitable?
We're a young company. We're on the path to profitability. Some markets are profitable, but not all.
Okay.
Yeah.
What state are you incorporated in?
San Francisco. Well, Delaware is where our incorporation
Delaware?
is, but
Well,
but HQ is San Fran.
Yeah, that's like 60% of American corporations are incorporated
Exactly.
in Delaware. Yeah, I'm going to just reiterate the concern that I heard from Councilor Anderson, Councilor Murphy, and I'm sure we've all heard it. The bikes do seem to be laying down on the sidewalks. I've heard from residents that say, hey, listen, I've got 24 hours to shovel snow so that people can pass on my sidewalk. or I get a ticket. Whereas, you know, the guy down the street that just used a Lime bike can dump it on my yard or on a sidewalk and obstruct the right-of-way, and there's no accountability for him. So I don't know if these concerns are reaching you. They are now, but I think it's important to keep in mind. I want this to work real nice for everybody, the people who use the bikes and the people who don't use the bikes, for your company and for our city. With the other cities and towns, do you have any kind of profit share, or do you pay any kind of fee for the access to their towns?
We do not.
Okay, how many towns do you operate in?
There's 15 in this regional agreement. We're in Quincy as well, so in Massachusetts, 16.
Do you only operate in Massachusetts?
No, we're all across the country, all across the world.
How many communities, if you had to ballpark it, if you don't know offhand?
Oh,
ballpark,
150 markets probably.
and 16 in Mass?
Yeah.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. You're late with, okay. Second time, Councilor O'Malley.
Yeah, I do want, a few things popped into my mind, because two of the main complaints that I've received is, one, riding on sidewalks, and two, the safety of the users knowing how to ride, and whether or not they're using helmets and things like that. And so one of the great things that Lime Bike has brought to the city is the data. So now that we have the data about where people are riding bikes, it's actually helped us. And the funny thing is, you know, people who might have been anti-bike before, I've noticed, are now, you know, demanding more bike infrastructure, so that our residents don't have to ride on sidewalks, but instead can actually ride in the right of way. And so that's something that's been unique, and the data that your bikes have given us has helped us prioritize where we're going to put that infrastructure. For instance, Exchange Street. What we've decided to put a cycle track on Exchange Street that will connect the MBTA Orange Line at Malden Center to the Northern Strand Community Trail, because that's something that we've noticed is people are really biking down that corridor frequently, and we want to make sure that people are riding safely. To the second point about knowing how to ride your bike, there's been a great community-led effort, and I'm going to call out a few names, by Brendan Millardo, Brendan Connor, Prisco Tamaro, Renee Camarada Hamilton, and then Bike to the Sea in general, to do a bike riding rodeo and training in the spring of 2019. I think that they are talking to Cambridge Health Alliance and kind of getting that all planned out. Would Lime Bike want to partner with them to kind of help with that rodeo?
Yeah, I believe it's actually already in process.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think this is what I'm trying to get at is, you know, it's a great company, it's a great organization to have in Malden, and while it's not perfect, we are iterating and we're trying our best to get to a better system. And like I said, thank you, and I hope that we as a community can kind of rally around this shared resource and realize, like every other shared resource, we all have our part in how we maintain it, and if we all do our part, it's going to be better in the end. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. And from the chair, welcome, Mr. Mullen.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful you're here. I do have a couple of questions. Do you find that the bikes are damaged a lot in Malden? What's that kind of?
I'll say no, and I will say that it's actually less than our sort of average across all fleets, which is about 1% of attrition. When I was at Hubway, you know, we had a couple end up in the harbor. I don't know what it is about bikes going in the water, but it happens, right? And every good bike share operation has a grappling hook, and what's that? Yeah, exactly. They just didn't. We'll get to that. That's our next mode. But no, the attrition rate is, you know, they're largely respected. I mean, these things, once people get what they are, this is like, it's a way to get around.
Yeah.
And so, you know, once people see that as, you know, sort of transit, these aren't bicycles, this is a transit network.
Right.
You know, there's 30,000 cars registered in this town. There's 300 Lime bikes, right? That's a very small proportion, but they've had a huge impact.
That's great. Okay. Are you a member of the chamber?
You know, I'll check with our GM. I'm not sure if we've
Okay.
joined yet, but we
Okay.
should. I
I
thought we
think
did
you
last
should.
year when we were doing the pilot. but
Let's get you
if we're
signed
not,
up
we
in
will.
our chamber, okay? And going back to the helmets, so in my generation, it was mandatory for our children to wear helmets. So
Really?
it's just
I feel we're
kinda-
the same generation.
Oh, no,
My dad
thank
taught me,
you.
he was a cop, and he said, you have to ride against traffic. This is what
Yeah.
I was taught.
Yeah, but no helmets, huh?
Yeah.
No? no helmets?
Well, there's no helmet law here. Certainly, we
Right.
encourage them. We list in our app all
Oh,
the
you
places
do?
where you can get one.
Okay.
If you reach out to us, if you have a $10 balance in your account, we will mail you a free helmet.
Oh, great.
No, absolutely. We just don't believe that helmets should be a barrier to bike share.
Great.
We tried to do a helmet hub when I was at Hubway, which was sort of a helmet vending machine where $5 you would get a helmet would come
Cool.
out.
Yeah.
You'd wear it, and then when you parked your bike, you would put it back in the next vending machine. Nobody used it. They didn't trust the cleanliness of a helmet
Yeah.
coming out of a vending machine. So,
Yeah.
you know, we found that it's more of a barrier. We want people to wear helmets, but it's not required by law.
Right.
And, but we
Okay.
do have programs in place.
So, and I actually have received some concerns about where the bikes are parked and left. And it seems, I'm going to throw out a street that maybe will alert you. It's Walcott Street in Malden.
Okay.
I've gotten so many repetitive complaints, so maybe you can keep your eye on that.
Sure, yeah.
Because
We'll
it is
let
a
the ops
safety
team know.
concern. Apparently, one week it was hooked on the fence, and, you know, for an elderly person, that's, you know,
Okay.
stresses them right out.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. And I will say that the complicating factor is we are the only sanctioned dockless bike share company to be operating in the region. There's another one that's called a rogue operator, and they also have green bikes. Sometimes, quite frequently, theirs are confused for ours. We get a lot of calls, and we end up that it's not our bike, but certainly Walcott Street is on our radar now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there's actually one more light, Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. I just had one question, and not that I'm looking to have you enforce this, but it was pretty interesting. You said you have to be 18 in order to ride the bike, right?
Correct.
Do you ever kick anybody off a bike if they're under 18?
Well, we're not running around checking
Yeah.
IDs, but yeah, so it's sort of,
Is it because it's contractual? Is that the reason why you have to be 18?
well, you have to be 18, yeah, it's you sign up for it. You can be 16, but your parent or guardian has
Has
to
to
click
sign
through
for
the
it?
app. Yeah, it's similar to the Hubway, or excuse me, now the Blue Bike system, where are you 18? Yes.
Okay.
If you're not, parent or guardian, click here, yes.
Okay, I just found that curious. I mean, it's good to see the kids using the bikes. I didn't know there was a minimum age requirement, which is interesting. So I just had a question if they enforce it. That's all. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam
you.
President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora, and thank you very much for coming in front of us, Scott. We appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome.
Continue the good work.
And I will leave my contact information,
Great.
and for you as well, so you can be in touch with our team. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So now, next order of business is public comment. We do have one person that's signed up, Jeff Taylor, 57 Mount Vernon Street, and please join us at the podium.
Hi, I'm Jeff. Most of you know that. So I wanted to talk about the cannabis licensing, but I don't know if is that on the docket. I wasn't sure if it counts for ordinance was talking
Well,
about
you're
it.
here, so.
I'm here.
Nor-
Oh, well, thank you. Okay. So I wanted to say, I've been following it closely, and I'm noticing the fees associated with the process that are proposed seem high to me, and they seem prohibitive to small businesses and maybe to low-income and minority groups being able to open up businesses within the city of Malden. And I just want you to consider that as the process goes forward. I know nothing's set in stone yet, and if you just consider the idea that having small businesses is something that this business really is a boom for potential small businesses rather than just a corporate grab. And I'd hope you'd all consider that as you finalize the process. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, next order of business.
Okay, approval of the minutes for December 11th, 2018.
Okay, on Councilor Murphy's motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor? Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next order of business.
Class 2, Linden Auto, 121 Beach Street, Malden, 19 cars.
You want to
Want me
do?
to do them all? Okay. Class 2, Quality Auto Sales, 577 Highland Ave. Amusement Machines, Irish American, 177 West Street, Malden, 4 machines. Amusement Machines, GLS Associates, 50 Holden Street, 9 machines.
Refer to License Committee, please.
Thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to refer the petitions to license, all those in favor? Any opposed? Petitions are referred. Next order of business.
Order that the city council adopt the schedule of city council meetings for 2019.
Okay, did we all get this in our docket? Okay, great. Okay, on Councilor Sika's motion to adopt, do we have any questions about the schedule? None, hearing none. Okay, on Councilor Sika's motion to adopt, all those in favor? Any opposed? Very good, the schedule of council meetings have been adopted. Next order of business.
The next is the election of city council president for the year 2019.
Okay, Councilor Crowe?
Thank you, Madam President. I nominate Councilor Sika to be the next city council president.
Okay, and seconded by Councilor O'Malley. And very good. So on
Close
motion to close nominations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
So, Councilor Anderson,
Councilor Sika.
Councilor Kamel, Councilor Condon, Councilor Crowe,
Councilor Sika.
Councilor Matheson,
Councilor Sika.
Councilor Murphy, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Sika, if you want to vote,
You gonna vote for yourself?
might as well. Councilor
Yes, you have to vote.
Councilor Spatafora,
Councilor Sika.
Councilor Winslow, Councilor Di Maria.
Councilor Sika. Okay, unanimous. Congratulations. Okay, next. Very good.
Okay, we have a resolve that is the sense of the city, the Malden City Council, that the Malden legislative delegation submit legislation for passage relative to imposition of a 5-cent bottle deposit on miniature bottles of alcohol, such as, but not limited to, nips and flasks. Councilor O'Malley.
Councilor O'Malley for the paper.
Thank you, Madam President. So this paper I cannot take credit for. This paper is something that has been brought to my attention by so many people in our community. I think that if anyone lives anywhere near a neighborhood alcohol store or liquor store or package store, whatever you call it, knows that nips are pervasive in our community. They are thrown all over the street, all over the sidewalk, in our yards. And when it rains, they end up in our culverts and in the Malden River, and then eventually into the Boston Harbor. It's not good ecologically. It's not good for the cleanliness of our community. So I ask that we support this tonight and request that the legislature enact not a ban, but a 5-cent deposit, so that if you find millions of these nips in your front yard, like I do on Main Street, you can pick them up and bring them to the liquor store, and you get 5 cents each. It's been very effective for all other types of bottles, so I think it would be pretty effective here. If my memory serves me correct, Maine has passed a 5-cent deposit on nips and plastic flasks and stuff like that. So I'd ask for your support here tonight on this. I don't want to stifle any debate, but my motion would be to adopt the resolve.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. We do have several lights on the floor. Councilor Murphy was up first.
Thank you, Madam President. And Councilor O'Malley, if you don't mind, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor to this. I don't believe you were in the room when I was having a conversation a couple of weeks ago about, it just came up on kind of off the cuff, but like you, live on a main street, constantly have nip bottles in front of my house that I'm picking up. And one of my constituents actually walked Forest Street, Lebanon Street, Sylvan Street, and back to Main Street, and he stopped me and said, "Is there anything we can do about these nip bottles?" I counted 38 of them as he walked the block. I had another gentleman down on the corner of Forest and Goodwin call me a couple of weeks ago, once again, about nip bottles. They are just a blight on the city, and couldn't be happier to see something like this happen, because kids will pick them up, people will pick them up, at least they'll get a little bit of money for them and move it forward. But I think it's a great idea, and maybe someday we'll get water bottles to 5 cents. But anyway, that's a whole other story. I know. So anyway, but I would definitely support this resolve. No question about it.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Winslow is next.
Yeah, I definitely support it as well. As someone who's done a lot of community cleanups, especially along the bike trail and other places, and along our rivers, yeah, nips just are a persistent problem, and you know, compared to, like I say, it just they're particularly bothersome because they're small and pervasive, and I think it is also the type of thing that particularly the dynamic is that people using nips are just tend to throw them away, litter. I mean, I think you do see other type of litter, but I don't see it as persistent as someone consistently throwing them away. And I think that to change that behavior, you really do need a deposit or some other type of thing that, you know, certainly I see on the bike trail that, you know, there are bottles occasionally found or whatever, but I don't see the persistent thing like I know by the Salemwood School. I would find, you know, go out 1 week, find 7 or more, same time, then, you know, next week, 7 more. It's a persistent thing that, it's a repetitive habit of people who are using nips, and I think it makes it a special case, so I'm definitely supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. I too echo the colleagues in the council. I think it's a great endeavor, just for the very thought of just getting the bottles out of the trash, and never mind the environmental impact. Now, if we could tie this to scratch tickets, I think we'd be onto something. Where I know that one time the state was looking to do a program where if you turned in 10 scratch tickets, they'd give you some kind of drawing application. You could go in there and win all sorts of prizes, not just money. But I'm not saying it as a joke. It'll be funny. I think that's the next kind of thing, because the biggest complaints you hear from variety stores are the scratch tickets, and if there's a liquor store nearby, these nips. So maybe the state could work on something to do with that too, to help kind of recycle that and give a reward away. So happy to support this in every way. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, at the risk of being redundant, absolutely support this. Anything that helps, you know, in a city like ours, in an urban environment, one of the things that we have to deal with is that litter all over the place, and we've got to tackle it to make sure that we don't get that that veneer of being a gritty city. We want to be a clean city and a vibrant city, and I think this goes well to helping us achieve that. So thank you very much for bringing it, and wholeheartedly support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President, and as Councilor Kamel said, I don't want to be redundant, but I do see them everywhere. In particular, you see them concentrated in certain areas, and I'm always trying to walk by there to see if I can figure out who's, you know, getting rid of so many. So I wholeheartedly support this and hope we can get something done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. To the sponsor, since it's been such a positive dialogue, would you entertain the fact that this comes from the entire City Council? Is there any problem with that this resolve is from the entire City Council? That's great. Okay. Thank you very much. So on Councilor O'Malley's motion to pass, all those in favor? Any opposed? The resolve has been passed. Next order of business.
We have a communication from City Council President Di Maria to discuss Charter Review Committee appointees. Dear councilors, as recommended by the mayor in a letter sent to the council, which was read into the report on December 11th, I am pleased to establish an ad hoc committee, hereby known as the Charter Reform Committee. I am pleased to announce the councilors that will be serving on this committee with me, Ward 1 Councilor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ward 4.
Oh. Ward
Fix
4
that.
Councilor Ryan O'Malley, Ward 6 Councilor David Kamel. I'm further pleased to confirm that Maria Louise and Ron Hogan will serve as representatives of the Mayor's Committee, along with former clerk Karen Anderson and former committee clerk of committee Sheila Famano. Their administrative support continues to be quite valuable. As we all have had a chance to begin reviewing the charter over the past summer, I do strongly agree with the mayor that the improvements to the city government are well overdue. Meetings shall begin immediately and following our council rules. Thank you and congratulations, Debbie DeMaria, City Council President.
Thank you, and congratulations to you both.
Communication, President Council DeMaria to discuss Community Fund Committee appointees. Dear councilors, as many as you can remember, and as part of the Encore Boston Harbor Surrounding Communities Agreement, Malden will be receiving $1 million annually. This comes with a requirement guidelines that 10% must be allocated to local nonprofits within the Malden community. This is strictly a housekeeping item, but as I transition off council presidency, I recommend that the Community Fund Committee consists of 2 city councilors. It is my suggestion that the council president or their designee in the finance chair be part of the committee going forward. I believe the partnership between the administration and the city council will serve the community the best with an overall and decision-making of these funds. Encore Boston is on target for June 2019's opening. Please place this correspondence on file. I remain yours very truly, Debbie DeMaria.
Thank you.
Council President.
So I think we'll just take a vote on both of those communications. On Councilor Kamel's motion to place both of those communications on file. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, those are on file. Thank you.
I have nothing.
Wow, we have personal. Oh, suspension of docket rule. Councilor Crowe.
Sorry, Madam President, but I do want to make a motion to suspend docket rules for the purpose of receiving the Appointments and Personnel Committee report. We met earlier this evening, and since we have a few weeks in between, I'd like to get this person confirmed so they can begin to meet with their committee.
Okay, so first, Council, we're going to vote on the suspension of docket rules. Is there a second to that? Yes. Councilor Murphy seconds that. Okay, so all those in favor of suspending docket rules for the purposes of reporting out? Any opposed? Okay, so we have suspended docket rules. Councilor Crowe.
So, motion to receive the committee report.
Thank
Yes.
you. On Councilor Crow's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Councilor Crowe for the committee.
Thank you, and as I said, because it is our last meeting for a few weeks, I thought it would be important to get this person onto their committee so they can get some work done. Her name is Buan Guan, and she's a resident of Ward 1. She's been a resident of Malden for the last 6 years, and she's very, very excited to get involved. And this will be on the Human Rights and Fair Housing Commission, and the term she will be expired November 16, 2019. So she'll be filling an unexpired term until that time. She works at Lesley University and does diversity training and event planning and a whole myriad of other things. Like I said, she had reached out when she saw the boards and commissions and reached out to the board, the commission chairperson, and has gone to the meetings and really wanted to get involved. So when an opportunity opened up, she reached out to see if she could fulfill it. So I make a motion that we confirm Buan Guan to the Human Rights and Fair Housing Commission.
Seconded.
Okay. Confirming Buan Guam to the Human Rights Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, we do have another light on the floor. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to take advantage of this meeting being on TV because I want to make all the residents aware of the fact that the Hallmark Health is at it again. A lot of us were around. If you weren't on the council, you were here some 20 years ago when the Malden Hospital ended up closing. And the way they did it was they closed the emergency room. They were kind enough to open the urgent care and expand their hours, which they knew would never fly. And as a result, we ended up closing the hospital. Well, Needless to say, the Lawrence Memorial Hospital is scheduled to close their emergency room, and they're expanding their hours on urgent care. And I look into my crystal ball, and I would say that the hospital, that's just their plan to close the Lawrence Memorial Hospital. Well, they're required to have a meeting, and it's the Department of Public Health, and there is a meeting at the Lawrence Memorial Hospital. They haven't notified us yet, but January 2nd, there's a meeting at the nurses' quarters up there, the nurses' school. They have a room in there, and if any of your residents use the Lawrence Memorial, I know a lot of my Ward 2 residents do, because it's closer than the Melrose, and there isn't as long a wait. Sometimes at Melrose, it's ridiculous how long you can wait in that emergency room. You need people there to represent the city of Malden, because once again, I believe the plan is to close the Lawrence Memorial. They're not going to close the Melrose. Probably the Whidden will be next if they're not already closed. But we need a good showing of our residents. People on the west side, a lot of them do use that Melrose, the Lawrence Memorial. So I wanted to bring it to the public's attention to let your voice be heard at this meeting at 6 o'clock, January 2nd. I had a few constituents call me, and I want to make sure that the public does know. So I thank you. Yes.
Hold on, clerk.
No, I understand that. I understand that, but this is another meeting at Medford that they have planned. And it's the first step to close the emergency room.
Okay, all set, Councilor Condon?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor O'Malley.
We're on personal privilege.
We are
correct?
on personal privilege, thank you.
So I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Kwanzaa, and a happy and healthy New Year. See you in 2019.
Okay, thank you. So just to kind of skip back, the docket is officially clear. So now we are on personal privilege. Councilor Spatafora is next.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a reference to Councilor Condon's point about the hospital. I think the residents should be aware and be active in going down and at least participating in that meeting. If history is going to repeat itself, which I'm sure it will be, and I know that Hallmark has been sold and merged, and there's all, you know, there are new executives there. It's interesting to know how they did it in Malden. The reason why they didn't close it initially was they would then have to pay taxes on that property. So they received, I think, in the largest tax rebate in the history of Malden at one point. I think it was 93%. Mr. Donnelly said, so it's part of the reason they just don't come out and blatantly say we're closing, besides the political ramifications, is they want to keep that property as use, like they did in Malden. They used it for hospital storage, and it allowed them to be not paying the taxes. So it's important, I think, the residents go up there and show support, or at least voice your opinion on that, because I think it's important, and I agree with Councilor Condon and somewhat know for a fact that plan is to close that. There has been some staffing reductions down there. I know some people who have actually been working there, and they've been unfortunately laid off in the last couple of weeks. So the crystal ball is telling me that they're probably going to close that soon. And finally, just to go into personal privilege, if you don't mind, Madam President, or do you want to go around? It's up to you.
Yeah,
Just Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. I was talking to Councilor Crow. Let me be the first person to wish Councilor Seeker good luck as being the council president. It's not an easy job, as you can probably ask your past presidents, but it's also now every female in this body will be serving as president of this. So I think that's a big in a row. So I think it's.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah. So good luck, and it's an impressive feat, and I'm supporting you the whole way. You're welcome.
Okay, great. Councilor Matheson is up next.
Thank you. I'll begin with saying thank you and fine work to our outgoing council president, Councilor Di Maria. How about a round of applause for Councilor Di Maria? And best wishes to our incoming council president, Councilor Jadine Sika. Jadine, you have our full confidence. I'm sure you'll do a great job. And to the extent that I or anyone can help you, please don't be afraid to ask. There is a learning curve, but I know you'll do well. To Councilor Condon's point, again, 2 weeks in a row we're talking about this, and we should be. Someone has presented me with some information about usage of Lawrence Memorial Hospital. Apparently, over the last 3 years, 15% of the patients have come from Medford, and that's the city that hosts the hospital. 13% have come from Malden. That's FY 15, 16, and 17 statistics. Consistently across the board, the third most, 10%, comes from Melrose, and the fourth most comes from Wakefield, ironically. So that being said, as long as they're using their assets to serve their charitable mission, they are tax exempt, to Councilor Spatafora's point. When the hospital was closed down, they were no longer serving the charitable mission, although they claimed to be. We had waived a $1 million past owed tax bill to that hospital organization after they had abandoned that building. As you know, we did just get through litigation with Hallmark Health. The way that came about a few years ago was that because this building had been shuttered, it was an attractive nuisance. What that means is you know that you're going to have people that break into the building, and that's a danger to them. And it also is a danger to the community at large because it's a fire risk with no fire suppression or safety mechanisms. What Hallmark had said in the litigation was, don't make us demolish this building and don't make us introduce any more safety measures such as fire suppression, because the building doesn't need to be torn down. It can stand, it's structurally sound enough to stand until we're ready to tear it down. The court did side with them, but as a result, we did have to reassess this property, and their tax bill has doubled. So they are paying for holding that land, and I think it behooves them, as a good corporate citizen, to find new and productive use, highest and best use for that property within the zoning that's allowed there. With that being said, I again thank Councilor Condon for bringing this issue to our attention. There is a community meeting. The Department of Public Health does want community input. I think that's very, very important. That meeting is going to be at Lawrence Memorial Hospital on January 2nd. And with that, I will close with Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and happy, any way that you celebrate the season. This is just a wonderful time of year for us to get together with family and friends and care about each other and celebrate all the good fortunes that we have and hope and pray for peace and enter into the new year with fresh hope and with much goodwill for health and success to our fellow man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Councilor Sika.
Thank you. I, too, just wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday, happy new year, and I look forward to working with you all in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor DiMaria, I wanted to just thank you for a wonderful year. You have shown true leadership this year. You've led us through a number of bumpy roads, gotten us to the end game. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Councilor
and
Murphy.
you know, we look forward to maybe switching chairs and sitting beside you. Who knows? Who knows? And Councilor Sika, I know I have inordinate faith that you are going to be an incredible president. I'm really looking forward to this coming year. So you'll do great. And to all the constituents out there, the city of Malden, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. May all your dreams come true, and may you have peace, prosperity, and love throughout 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I too want to echo the fellow councilors of the wonderful job our current president has done, and I can only hope that Councilor Sika will fill those shoes very well, and I'm confident she will, and we'll all be supportive of that. So, but yes, thank you, Councilor DiMaria, for your wonderful leadership this year. And then for everybody out in the TV land, wishing you all the happiest of holidays, and enjoy that with your family, and best of luck for the new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Madam President, for a remarkable year of leadership as our council president. It's been said by those who have spoken before me of what a great job you've done, and I want to point out that you seem to have hit the ground running when it came to you taking over as council president. You started communicating with each of the councilors in a way that we really hadn't been used to before. Your meetings with the mayor, for example, that you do, you were sharing that information which it should always have been done. Your willingness to go to all the different meetings and speak up for the council and so forth was really remarkable. So, J.D. and Sika, you have big shoes to follow in following the work of Councilor DiMaria. I know you'll do a good job. I know you'll enjoy the downsizing of your job, Council President. So to both of you, happiness in your stepping down, happiness in your coming forward, and to all of our residents, so the happy holiday season, goodwill, good health, and all the best for 2019. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Kamel.
To echo my colleagues, I want to thank you, Madam President, for a wonderful year of leadership, and personally for being a good mentor to me and for placing your faith in me several times as a new councilor. That was encouraging and heartening and helped me along my first year. And I have no doubt that your successor will be doing a fantastic job. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, and to all my colleagues here, thank you for making this first year a truly memorable one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President, and, follow suit. I'd like to thank you, Councilor DiMaria, for all your hard work this year. You really put in yeoman's work and did all the things that everybody else has talked about. And congratulations, Councilor Sika. You have my full support and faith in you, and if you need anything, I'm a phone call away. And just to everybody else, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and a happy and safe New Year. Call Spatafora first, though.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Council President. I'm sorry I put the hospital before you. Sometimes, as you get older, you can only do one thing at a time. And I came here because I did want to congratulate you. You had an outstanding year as president.
Thank you.
You put your heart into everything, and you communicated like you were second to none. I've been here a long time, served under a lot of council presidents, and you never left us hanging as a body. And I thank you for that. And J. Dean, I wish you luck. If I can be of any help, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Condon. Second time, Councilor O'Malley.
Councilor Condon and I have a lot in common. We both forgot to thank you the first time around. So, I mean, I don't know. Oh, that's the question.
Here we go.
I just want to sing some of your praises. I mean, new council rules, completely revamped. Public comment for the first time in the history of the Malden City Council. The amount of transparency you've brought to the city of Malden. As a friend, thank you so much for your leadership. And I do look forward to next year. It's going to be a big year, so thank you.
Thank you. So do I get a second just to say thank you to all of you? I hope I get to do that. So yeah, I am. So I can do it, right? Last time, we were very courageous as a council. We took on some tough subjects. We did pass public comment, which I know to some of you that was a tough nut to chew, but we did it, and I think it's been wonderful. We were courageous forming an ad hoc committee for our cannabis, and at the end of June, we did have our zoning in place. I think we were very efficient with the Honeywell plan that we reached our neck out with $8.8 million, but you know, we are guaranteed to get that back with efficiency. So that was wonderful. With our historic facade preservation, that is so near and dear to my heart. So I think that was great. Just a couple of stats. We went through 97 appointments or reappointments this year, 97. We passed 25 ordinances. We had over 30 community guests in front of us this year, which, I mean, if you can remember, Julie Mangan from our community garden, how she put us in such a wonderful state, sharing that with us. And the gallery, when they came in and did their parade through the council, that was just wonderful. And of course, the Choral Arts Group. Our $173 million budget that was collaborative, and we worked out all the snags in committee, and we came forward respectfully with a unanimous vote. And I think I'll end with that the council, I consider all of you my friends, and I think we all worked collaborative and as a team, and that's just proven that as a team, so much can be accomplished. It was truly an honor, and I thank you all, and I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, whatever you celebrate. Thank you. Ooh. So on Councilor Seeker's motion to adjourn, all those, oh, no, that's in the summer, I think, right? Yeah. On Councilor Seeker's motion to adjourn, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? City Council meeting is adjourned.